expenses. So the cost of production is composed of three elements. That is material cost, labor cost, and overhead. So you're going to do that under each and every job. So here we have job J14. We have job J14 here. J14. J14. And then we have job J15. J16. And then here we have J17 and J18. So those are the jobs that we have. So we're going to list down the materials. So we're going to start with the material cost. We're going to start with the material cost. So the jobs, we have jobs that began in August. So we have the material cost in August for this one was 2,500. That is 2,500 for J14. And J15, it was 1,444. Is it so? These other jobs had not yet started in August. And then in September, we have additional material that were introduced. So during the month of September, that is according to note number 2, the company accepted 3 more jobs, and there was direct materials issued in September. So this one, it was 840. This is 1396. This is 3,800. This is 2442. And this is 1032. So those are the. And then you find out any details that any information that is also affecting materials. Like we had material return. So we have material returns. So returns, you write here returns. So the returns, so here 240. If there's a material return, you deduct. And then here it was 140. And then note number 3, during the month of September 2012, direct materials worth 200 were transferred. So we have transfers here. We have transfers. So material worth 200 were transferred from J14. So you deduct from here, and then you add here. To J16, you add here. So that is all information that we have on materials. So when you compute this one, you get the material used or material consumed. So you get your material used for each job. So can we add them? We get the material used. Material used. Sorry? 2,900. Which one? 2840. $38.60. This one, $38.60. And this one is 24.42, 10.32. So that is the material cost. And then you add here labor cost. We have labor cost in the month of August. So the month of August, we had 2 jobs already. We have 1640 here, 1640, and here 1,000. This one had not yet started. And then we come here September. The direct labor here was 520. The other one, is it 780? 3120, 1510. This one is 580. So now when you add material cost and labor cost, you get what we call the prime cost, a combination of, so here we get the prime cost. Prime cost is a combination of the material and labor cost. So already we have the material cost up to this point, and these are the labor costs. So we add them together. 16, 6980. So the price 6980 here. 50, 60. So 14 is 50, 60. 1612 here. Which one? 4820. 3952. So that is a prime cost. And then we add overheads here. We add overheads. So we have overheads in the month of August. The month of August, the overhead was 3280 for these jobs that were there, 3280. And then this is 2400. And then we have in September. So in note number 5 says the factory production overhead is absorbed at the rate of 200% of direct labor. So in other words, overhead is equivalent to 200% of direct labor in that particular month. So the direct overhead, the direct labor for the month of August for J14 is 3280. So 200% of that one is the overheads. So 200% is the same as 2, isn't it? So you multiply 2 times this figure, you get the overhead figure. Are we together? 200% overhead are absorbed on the basis of direct labor at 200%. So remember we said overhead we normally estimate, isn't it? So the estimating overhead based on the direct labor cost of 200%. 200%. So 200% of 3280 is how much? So this one will be 6560. The other one? 48. Sorry, of September, sorry, of 520. The labor cost was 520 now, J4, isn't it? So it is 520 times 2, not this one. 1040, isn't it? Then now it will be 780. 1560. 6240. And the other one? 3020. 1160. So that is the overheads for September. Then we come here. And then we get the total production cost. Total production cost. So we add prime cost and overhead cost. Get the total production cost. Total production cost. 2772. 9380. 9380. 18. This is correct. Or any J or J17. Gani? E 69. Eh? 8780. Eh? This one? 13.2. And then now we have, after now the production cost, we have additional cost, admin cost. So the admin cost we're being told on completion of a job, the company adds 20%. That is according to number 6. On the completion of a job, the company adds 20% to the total for production costs in order to recover its selling, distribution, and admin expenses. So those jobs that have been invoiced, we're going to add admin cost and selling distribution cost. It means they are completed. So we are only going to add admin cost to the jobs that are already invoiced. We're going to write here selling, distribution, and admin. And admin to those, that is 20% of production costs. So those are job J14, 5, and 6. This one. 20% of this one is going to be absorbed as, nakuja ngapi? 1966 here. So this is 1756. 46. 2644. So those are, and then now you get the total cost of making and selling. Total cost of making and selling. Total cost of making and this one are yet to be completed. So you just leave them. So you add these three. 1876. 1876. The other ones are okay. Okay. So unakuja unapata ngapi? Uh, 11,256. 10,536. And the other one? 15? 15,864. So that at that point, we have the total cost of making and selling, the cost of making and selling. So we come here with the income statement. We come here with the income statement. So they want us to determine the profit or loss for a particular job, especially those that were invoiced. So we have here job J14, job J15, and job J16. So we have the invoice price here. The invoice price, J14, the invoice price is 12,500. J15, the invoice price is 12,000. 15,800. And then we less the cost. We less cost here. Cost, which is 11,256. This other is 10,536. This is 15,864. So here you get the profit stroke loss. Profit stroke loss. A negative 64. These are loss of 64. 14, 16. 1464. The next one. 1244. A profit, isn't it? So now that is how we do the job. A recap of what you're doing. You accumulate the cost. The cost involves the material, labor costs, overhead costs. Then you get the total production cost. In case we have any other costs in the name of administration or selling, you add. Then you get the total cost of making and producing. You compare with the invoice price. So that one should be done to each and every individual job. That is all you need to know on job costing. So at your own free time, you can check also, you can also check on that June 2009 question number 2. You can also check June 2009 question number 2. So in addition to being able to determining the profit or loss for a particular job, you also need to know what is job costing and what are the features of job costing. So those are the testing areas. Anything that is not clear? The job only though is completed when it is invoiced. When it is invoiced to the customer. So that is all to do with the job costing. So you can do this one, then that one. So I want us to now go to service costing. Service, you have the notes? You have the notes, isn't it? So now I want to look at service costing. Service costing. So this one is already captured in the notes, but I can give you a minute. Maybe if there's a mistake in the notes, you can take a photo of this and then you compare with that one that you've already captured in the notes. In case of any problem, you can make corrections as necessary. So we want to look at the service costing. So service costing. So we have service industries like insurance firms, transport industries, and the banking industry. So they also need to know the total cost of the operation and the profit thereof. So they don't have the direct materials because they are offering services. So you only come and accumulate the overhead costs and the labor costs in this case for service industries. They don't have material cost. They're offering services. So the question will just be given a question and you'll be required to determine the total cost of operation and maybe the profit thereof. So there's a question that was done in June 2008, question number 1. I have written the question there in the handout. So I want us to read the question and do it. So when it comes to service costing, you will be required to determine the total cost of operation. Like in this question, let us read it and you see. We have Safiri Salama Limited owns a fleet of 18 buses. Each bus has a carrying capacity of 29 passengers. The company operates for 6 days a week and 52 weeks a year. Further, the company serves 2 routes, Eastern and Western, with 9 buses on each route. Each bus on the Eastern and Western routes makes 10 and 13 trips per day, respectively. Over the last 52 weeks, the management of the company has collected the following data for the purposes of analyzing the performance of the buses. So we have per trips detail, Eastern and Western. Average number of passengers in Eastern, we have 15, Western 12. Average fare paid per passenger, Eastern is 30 and Western is 40. Distance covered in kilometers, Eastern is 15 and Western is 20. And number 2, operating cost incurred during the period, direct driver's wages is 500 shillings per bus per working day. Conductor's wages is 300 shillings per bus per working day. And then fuel and maintenance is 8 shillings per kilometer. A portion fixed cost is 52,000 shillings per route for the period. And the vehicle insurance is 61,000 per bus for the period. Required, Roman 1, total operating cost per bus on each route, 4 marks. And Roman 2, operating cost per kilometer on each route, 3 marks. And then number 3, profit per kilometer on each route. So this is a good example of service costing. So I can delete this one, isn't it? So they want us to determine, this is CPA June 2008, service costing here. Service costing. This is CPA June 2008. Question number 1. So we have 2 routes. So the question, total operating cost per bus on each route. So they want us to determine the total operating cost per bus on each route for the whole year. So we have the route called Eastern here. We have a route called Eastern and another one called Western. So we want to determine the total operating cost. So the operating cost, will start with the driver's wages. So we start with the driver's wages here. Driver's wages. So how do you determine? We've been told the driver is given 500 shillings per day, per working days, isn't it? So the driver is given 500. So driver is given 500 shillings a day. Then how many days are there in a week? So we have 6 days in a week. You multiply by 6 in order to determine the total wages for the driver per 1 week. And then he works for 52 weeks in a year. So now you multiply by 6 to determine the total cost in terms of wages for the week. And then you convert them into yearly wages by multiplying by 52. So 500 times 6 times 52, what do you get? Huh? So this one will be 156,000 for Eastern. The same thing happens to there. So they have the similar rates. And then we go to the conductors' wages. So we have conductors' wages here. Conductors' wages. So conductors are also given 300 per bus, isn't it? So it will be 300 times 6. That is weekly wages. And then times 52, that is yearly wages. What will that be? 93. So this one will be 93,600. This one will be 93,600. And then we have fuel and maintenance. So we have fuel and maintenance. Fuel and maintenance. So how is fuel and maintenance? 8 per kilometer, isn't it? So now I want to know the total kilometers covered in a per bus in Eastern route. So I've been told in above information that each bus on Eastern and Western routes makes 10. So Eastern, they make 10 trips. 10 trips per day. So they make 10 trips per day. And each trips consists of 15 kilometers, isn't it? So that when you take 10 trips, each trip is 15. So when you multiply the two, you get the total kilometers per day. Is it so? So that is the total kilometers per day, isn't it? And then you multiply by 6 to get the kilometers in a week. Huh? Sorry? Yes. Get the kilometers in a week covered, isn't it? Then we multiply by 52 to get the kilometers in a year. And then we multiply by the cost, isn't it? We multiply by 8. So that is how we determine the fuel and maintenance cost. How much will that be? 370? 374, 400. And then the same thing happens to Western. The Western, each bus, Western 13 trips per day, isn't it? So the Western makes 13 trips per day. And each trip is how many kilometers? 20. Is it so? Then you multiply by 6 times 52, and then times 8. So what do you get for Western? 648, 960. Are we together? So that is a, and then we have a portion fixed cost for each, for per route for the period, isn't it? So we have fixed cost here. We have the fixed cost. So the fixed cost here is how much? 52,000 here. 52,000, and here we have 52,000. So that is fixed cost per route. And then we have next is insurance, vehicle insurance. We have insurance, which is, so we have 61,000, and here we have 61,000. So I think at that point, we have exhausted all the costs. So we get the total cost per bus. This is the total cost per bus. So we add them downwardly. These are the costs involved per bus. So how much do you get? $10, 160. 10, 11, 160. 560. And then the Eastern 737,000. So that is the cost per bus, isn't it? That's the cost per bus. That is per route, and that is which is the same as. So they want the cost per kilometer, cost per. So now we need to know the total kilometers covered in each route per year, isn't it? So how many kilometers are covered? So the total kilometers covered. So kilometers covered here. KM covered per. How do you get? So you're saying Eastern, it makes how many trips? 10 trips per day. And then each trip is cheap, isn't it? So those are the 15 kilometers per day. And then you multiply by 6 to get there per week. Then you multiply by 52 to get per year. So how many kilometers are those? 46, 800, isn't it? And then the Western, it would be 13 times 20 times 6 times 52. How much will that be? 81120. So now here we have the cost per kilometer here. Cost per km. So it's going to be 37,000. You divide by 46. These are the total kilometers covered. And these are the total cost. 10,11,560. You divide by 81120. So this one, what am I to get? So Western, it will be 12.5. 15.7, isn't it? So that is what the question wanted us. Total operating cost per bus on each. This one, we've already got it. And then Roman 2, operating cost per kilometer, isn't it? So at that point, we have how many marks? 7. We go to the third one, Roman 3, requirement number 3, which says profit per kilometer on each. So every time you hear profit, then we must have revenue, isn't it? So we get the revenue per kilometer first, isn't it? So we get the revenue per kilometer here. We can get revenue per km. So we have been told, on average, number of passengers, we have 15 passengers traveling on the Eastern bus, isn't it? And each passenger pays how much? 30, isn't it? So when you multiply 15 times 30, that is one trip. So this is the revenue you're getting per trip. And then now the question is, how many kilometers are there per trip? 15 on the Eastern, isn't it? Is it so? So we divide by 15. We'll be able to get the revenue per kilometer. Is it so? Yeah. So how much will there be revenue? 30. So the revenue will be 30. And then the same thing happens in the Western route. Average passengers are how many? 12, isn't it? And then they are paying how much? 40. So this is the revenue that they receive per trip, which constitute of how many kilometers? 20. So how much revenue do you get there? 24 per kilometer, isn't it? Now profit per kilometer. Profit per kilometer is going to be revenue minus cost, isn't it? So the revenue is 30 here. So revenue is 30. This is the revenue, isn't it? And then the cost is 15.7. So this is a profit. The same thing here. This is 24. This is 12.5. So what do you get? Here, 14.3. The other one? Yeah? 11.5. So 11.5. Sasawa. That is how we do this question. It's all about interpretation. There's no way you can be told these ones. It's how you interpret it. They want just you to list the cost. All these questions are about costs, no matter how they twist and turn. So there are several questions of this kind. There's another one that was done in December 2014, question number 1B. There are several of this kind. This one was also repeated just recently. We're going to see it. This one, it was repeated just 2 sittings ago. So I want to see the one that was done in December 2014, question number 1B. Can we go there? Although I also written the question on the past paper there, or on the handout. So now I also want to do December 2014, question number 1B. December 2014, question number 1B. So the question reads, Afya Bora Health Center has a capacity of 20 beds. Afya Bora Health Center has a capacity of 20 beds. The following information relate to the center's operation for the year ended 30th June 2014. Repairs and maintenance in bracket fixed total is 150,000. Rent per month is 225,000. Food supply to patients variable 1080,000. And then laundry charges variable 540,000. Then medicine variable 900,000. Other expenses fixed 1080,000. Salaries per month, supervisors 30,000. Nurses 30,000. Ward assistant 15,000. Additional information number 1. The health center operated for 300 days during the year. For 200 days, the bed occupants accounted for 100%, while the rest of the period accounted for 80% occupants. Number 2, the health center engaged external doctors to attend to the patient at an average fee of 300,000 shillings per month. The doctors' fees were paid on the basis of number of patients attended by them. Number 3, during the year, 2 supervisors, 4 nurses, 2 ward assistants were engaged throughout. Profit is loaded at a margin of 50%. Required charge per day per patient, number of patients per day, number of patients required break even. So my point of concern is the first one. So they want the charge per day per patient. So in other words, we have to accumulate all the costs for the year, isn't it? Yeah. So this one was done in December 2014. DEC 2014, question number 1B. DEC 2014, question number 1B. So I want to list down the cost here. So here we have the total cost. Total cost. So the first one is repairs and maintenance, that is fixed cost, which is going to be 150,000. So we have repairs here, repairs and maintenance. Repairs and maintenance, which is 150,000 for the whole year. So you write there 150,000. And then we have rent per month. So rent, it is 225,000 per month. So we multiply by 12 in order to get the whole year's amount. How much will that be? Eh? 2,700,000. And then now we have food supplied. So food is a variable cost. Food is a variable. It depends on the number of patients that were there. So now, according to my reasoning, this is the amount of money that they budgeted to buy for food. They bought food equivalent to 1080. 80 in anticipation that the patient will be there in full capacity and they will consume the entire food. But now there were some days that the patients were not there. So now we get the ratio here. So we get the ratio. So the ratio for 200 days, the bed occupancy was 100%. So it's going to be 2 out of 3. Why 2 out of 3? That is the ratio. Okay. And then you multiply by 1080,000, and then you multiply by 100%. That is 2. And then 1 out of 3, then times the same cost, 80,000, and then you multiply by 80. So this one will be how much? So this one will be 720. And this other one? So this one will be 288,000. Then you add them together. 10,08,000. 10,08. So my reason, this is the total cost that was budgeted or preserved for food, or they bought food equivalent to this amount, isn't it? But not all the food that was bought was consumed, isn't it? So the only amount that was consumed out of the total 1,080,000 was 1,008,000, isn't it? So food valued at 68,000 was not consumed because patients were not there. That is okay. So that is food, that is variable. And then we go to the next one, laundry, isn't it? So this one is also variable. So it's going to be 2 out of 3 times 540,000, and then you multiply by 100%. Then we have 1 out of 3 times 540,000, and then you multiply by 80%. So this one will give you how much? The first one is 3. So this one will be 360,000. Okay? So 144,000. So total. Huh? 504,000. So that is laundry. Then medicine is also variable. Medicine is also variable. So we're going to 2 over 3 times the total cost of medicine, which is 900,000. And then you multiply by 100%. Then 1 out of 3 times 900,000. Then you multiply by 80%. So this one will give you how much? The first one? Eh? So this one will be 600,000. And the next one? 240. So total is 840, isn't it? And then we have other expenses fixed. So we have other expenses. Other expenses, which is fixed, 80,000. Then we have salaries here. We have salaries for supervisors. We have salaries for supervisors. We've been told during the year 2 supervisors and 4 nurses, 2 ward assistants were engaged. So they engaged 2 supervisors. So each supervisor was being given how much? 30,000, isn't it? Per month, isn't it? Then we multiply by 12. And then we had nurses. Nurses, there were 4 nurses. Each nurse was being given 30,000 per month, and then you multiply by 12. Then ward assistant. So we have ward assistant here. Ward assistants, we had how many? We had 2, each was given 15,000 and times 12. So the first one, so this one will be 720. 14. So 40,000. So 360,000, isn't it? Then we have doctors. So doctors, the amount of money that was preserved or allocated for doctors was 300,000, isn't it? So now doctor is also variable. So we're going to write here 2 over 3 times the health center engaged external doctors to attend the patient at an average fee of 300,000 per month, isn't it? So it's going to be 300,000 times 12, isn't it? Times 100%, isn't it? Then here we have 1 over 3 times 300,000 times 12 times 80%. Is it so? It also varied in accordance to the number of patients attended. 2 million? 2,400,000. The second one? 80. Eh? Total? Eh? 2480. 2480,000. 2,480,000. So those will be the total cost. Are you sure? 960. So 960 na hiyo ingine inakuja ngapi? So inakuja ngapi total? So this one will be 33,60,000. Then now you add all of them, you get the total cost. Excuse me. $12.162. So that is the total cost. These are the total cost of operation. Total cost. Total cost. Those are the total cost. What does the question want us to do? What is it that the question wants us to do? The question required us to determine charge per day per patient, isn't it? So this is the cost for how many days? This is the cost for 300 days, isn't it? So cost per day, here we're going to determine that these are the cost for 300 days. Remember the hospital operates for 300 days. So the cost per day now, we get the cost per day. So this is the cost 12,162,000. You divide by 300. It operates for 300 days, irrespective of whether patients came or not, isn't it? But they are in operation, isn't it? So this one is going to be 40,540. This is the cost. But now when you charge a customer, you have to add your profit, isn't it? So what is your profit element? So the profit is loaded at a margin of 50%, isn't it? Margin, remember we said at some point back, it is a profit on selling price. This is the cost price, so they don't rhyme. So here we have to come up with margin. Here we have been given the margin. Margin is equals to 50%. Are we together? Margin does not rhyme with the cost price. So we need to convert margin to markup. So by deducting this one, isn't it? So our markup here is going to be, 50 out of 50, which is the same as 1 out of 1, which is the same figure, isn't it? So we add 40, 540. So this is going to be the charge per day. Charge per day. So that was how much? 81,008, isn't it? So that one will give you how many marks? Charge per day. Sindio? That will give you how many marks? 3 marks or 12? 12, isn't it? Now we have to do what we call break-even. Break-even is a topic on its own, isn't it? When learning break-even. So we'll come back to this one when we learn about break-even. But let us see, let us review if we have some other question of this kind. Let us go to our past papers now to find out if these questions are examined. Do they really examine this question? So let us check the past papers. Can we check the past papers? So if you check, service costing, service costing, August 2022, question number 4, August 2022. August 2022, question number 4. It resembles this is the first question we did. August 2022, question number 4. So B, attempt that one, and then you let me know. And then another one, that is service costing. You also attempt May 2018, question number 4B. May 2018, question number 4B. May 2018, question number 4B. So those are questions that relates to, so we have already done this and we have done this. So when it comes to service costing, you just need to interpret the English and you list down the cost. Very easy. So you attempt those ones. Now I want us to do batch costing. Batch costing. Batch costing. Batch costing. Batch costing. We go to the notes again, where they have written batch costing. I think it is page number, this is there page number 4, batch costing. Batch costing. So this question, they are not examined oftenly, but they can be examined. They are not there. I haven't seen many of them, but we need to know how they are done. So batch costing. So that is batch costing. This is a method of costing in which the items are produced in large quantities. So you produce the mass production. The cost of the batch depends on the number of units in particular batch. The cost of production include the direct materials, direct labor, direct expenses, and any production overheads. In this costing, the customer specification is not taken into account. So you don't produce in accordance with the customer specifications. So all the items produced have similar characteristics. So features of batch costing is that production is made, or services are rendered for the specific batch order. So they are large quantities produced in the same way. And then costs attached to each batch, the production is identical in nature. So they are the same characteristics. So we have a question that was done. This mostly they are examined under ATD, but there is also, it is also a requirement for CPA. So there's a question that was done in ATD November 2010, question number 5. I've written the question there. So we have ATD November 2010, question number 5. So I've written the question there. The question reads, the budgeted overheads for Eagle Dairies Limited for the year provided as follows. Variable overheads. So we have overheads amount and the overhead absorption base. The company received an order to supply a batch of 2,000 dairies to Fly Dove Limited. The following information relate to the batch. Material costs is 87,000. It is 87,000 there. Not 87, it's supposed to be 87,000, but it's written there at 870. So you rectify that one. Then we have typesetting, 150 hours at 12 shillings per hour. Plate making is 40 hours at 15 shillings per hour. Printing is 60 hours at 20 shillings per hour. Binding is 100 hours at 10 shillings per hour. Additional information. The machine's hours used on this job were 50. Number two, selling and administrative overheads are charged at 10% of the production cost. Profit is charged at 25% on cost. So now they want us to require the total cost of the batch and the selling price of the batch, the cost per unit, selling price per unit. So when it comes to batch costing, you are producing several units that are similar. So what you need to do is to determine the total cost of doing that particular production, which is the same as those ones of job costing. You need to determine the total cost of the batch in terms of material, labor, and overheads. So you accumulate those costs. And in case we have any admin and selling, you also add to it. And then that one will be the total cost of the batch. So here we have overhead absorption rates. So they are absorbing overhead. So we're going to determine overhead absorption rates here. Overhead absorption rate. So remember overhead, we said it is to absorb overheads. Overhead absorption rates. So it is equals to budgeted overheads. Budgeted overheads over the base being the method. So now the first department there is typesetting. They have a department called typesetting. So the overhead absorption base there is we're going to be overheads over labor hours. So labor hours, which is equals to the overhead in that department is 150,000. So 150, and the budgeted labor hours is 15,000. So that one will give you how much? 10 per hour. So that is typesetting. Number two, we have plate making. Plate making. So going to be overheads here over the labor hours. The labor hours. So the overheads is 200,000 and the 25,000. So that one will give you how much? 8 per hour. And then number three, we have printing. Number three, we have printing. So it's going to be overheads over the use of the machine hours. Over the machine hours. So the total overhead is 300,000. And the budgeted machine hours is how much? 30,000 machine hours. This one will give you how much? So you're going to be 10 shillings per hour. 10 per hour. And then lastly, we have binding. We have a department called binding. So it's going to be overheads and labor hours. So that is the total labor hours there is how much? 120, overhead is 120. This other is 20. So that one will give you 6. So that one will be 6. Then I will determine the total cost of the batch. Total cost of the batch. Total cost of the batch. Remember, total cost is combination of material cost, labor, and so we start with the material cost. Material cost is supposed to be 87,000. So there's confusion. It is written there as 870. Supposed to be 87,000, and the undersheet is written 34. It's supposed to be 87,000. Are we together? Then we have labor cost. We have labor cost. Labor cost typesetting. It is 12 shillings per hour. So we have a department called typesetting. We have a department called typesetting. So they consume the total of 150 hours for labor, and the rate per hour is 12. So that one will give you how much? So this one will be 1,800. And then we have a department called plate making. Plate making, they consumed 40 hours. And then each hour was 50 shillings per. How much would that be? So this one will be 600. And then we have another called printing, which is 60 times 20. That one will give you how much? 1200. And then lastly, we have binding, which is 100 times 10, which is 1,000. Then we have overheads. Overheads, we have a department called typesetting. We are to be told is 10 shillings per hour. So the total hour spent is 15 times 10, which is going to be 1,000. And then plate making. Plate making is how much? 8 per hour. So it's going to be 40 times 8. 2020. 320. And then we have a department called printing. Printing, the overhead absorbed on the machine hours. The total machine hours were 50 in note number 1. Is it so? Times 10. So that one will be 500. That's how. The other one is labor. Oh, sorry. The other one was 60 was labor hours, but the machine hours were 50. Are we together? And then lastly, we have binding. The total hours for binding was 100 times 6, which is 600, isn't it? So that one we get the total cost of production of the batch. Total cost of production, which we are saying is a combination of material cost, labor, and overheads. Overhead mostly we absorb. Absorb means we determine a rate, then we use it to estimate. Sorry? 94? Total. $94, 320. 94? 520, isn't it? So now what is it that the question wanted us to do? The question required us to determine the total cost of the batch. So this is the total cost of the batch. This is the total cost of the, is it the total cost or the total cost of production? But now the total cost will also include the selling and distribution, if any. Selling and distribution, according to number 2, selling and distribution overheads are charged at 10% of production. So we have selling and distribution costs, selling and distribution, which is 10% of 94,520, which is a 94,52. So this is the total cost of, this is the total cost of making and selling. Total cost of making and selling. How much will that be? 103? 103,972. 103,972. That is the total cost of making and selling. So they want the total cost of the batch, that is. And then the selling price of the batch, the selling price. Selling price, what the selling price? What would be the selling price of the batch? So profit is charged at 20%, you add the cost, isn't it? So the profit element will be, profit is going to be 20% of 103, or 25, or 103,972. Huh? 25, 990, 993. So the selling price of the batch, selling price is going to be 103,972 plus 25,993, which is 129,745. Sorry? 965. Tumeelewana? 29. 129.9. Another 9 here. 765. 965. 129,965, isn't it? So that is the selling price of the batch. The cost per unit is going to be 103,972. You divide by 2,000. The units, which is 52, 51.9, isn't it? And then they also want the selling price per unit. The selling price is going to be 129965. You divide by 2,000, which is shillings 64.9. So I'm here to see many questions under CPA on batch costing. So I'll keep on checking, but they can be examined. So now we are through up to this point. So we are remaining with the process costing and joint product, isn't it? So that one will be the target for next week. That will be our target for next week. So in the meantime, you can go through the assignments I've given you under the 3 headlines. Then you are in case you have issues, you can let me know. Then next time we'll be doing process costing and joint products. That is the assignment for next week. Then from there, we do marginal and absorption, then budgets and variance. So we are almost, so it becomes serious. Everything that you need to have to pass exams is already out, isn't it? So, yeah, so our speed is okay and everything is good, it's moving smoothly. So what you make sure is you do assignments and you submit. So sign up. So that is the end of our class today. Just attempt the assignments. That is the end of our class today. Attempt the assignment as I've given you. Then now we'll start with process costing. We are remaining with the process costing and joint products. Process costing and joint products. That is the class for next week. Any question? If you have a question, you can pose. So that is kuna swali? Eh? So I have given you a lot of assignment on activity-based costing. I'm not seeing those assignments being submitted. Is it that activity-based costing